good afternoon and welcome. We are delighted to have you with us for the first Community Business Show. We'll see how this goes in this amazing venue. My name is Stephen Howard. I'm the chairman of Power to Change. Used to be chairman of business in the community. Get my title straight. And we're delighted that you're here today to help us celebrate, showcase, network, learn about, and challenge one another on the role of community business and the difference it can make in the communities in which we live and work. This is part of a partnership that we have with the Trinity Mirror Group, a collaboration to think about how we can get the messages out there in a different way, celebrate the stories and the examples in a broader and more impactful way. And we'll see where this takes us today. We're delighted. And in particular, today's partner, the Manchester Evening News, who are so active in this space and so active in this community. And I think very appropriate that we're in an amazing venue like we're in, celebrating the industrial heritage of this community of Manchester and beyond. And certainly regeneration is at the heart of what we think community businesses are about and the role that they can play in all of this. The Northwest, interestingly and perhaps not surprisingly, has been at the vanguard of community business. So much of what this sector and this movement has been about has been happening right here in your community, and we thank you for that. And we certainly think that community businesses have a very important role to play in the regeneration of communities, and that will be a theme that will run through, I think, everything we talk about today and everything we hear today. I'm stating the blindingly obvious, I suppose, when I say we're living in uncertain times. The Brexit vote, among so many other things, reminds us that we are a nation divided, that there is anger at distant elites. There is fear of globalization and the impact that it can have on people's jobs and their livelihoods. There is frustration over how we tackle as a nation the issue of immigration and refugees and other things. And we're really sort of torn by all of that. And I suppose at the heart of it, the sense that so much of our economy doesn't work for some people, or at least that's how they feel. So what is our response as a nation? What is our response as a community? We do know as well that government austerity is here with us to stay for a while. It isn't going to change anytime soon. So how do we respond to that? You're spending a lot of time in this community talking about devolution. And what does that mean? And is that a positive or a negative ultimately? Well, time will tell as we begin to unfold all of that. And all the while, the challenges of skilled shortages and other things that the businesses here are facing. And when we think about what the business community is up against, it's a broader issue, isn't it? At Davos this year, we talked about the fourth industrial revolution, how the so-called digital revolution and digital age is changing and upending almost every business model, whether you're a for-profit or a not-for-profit organization, impacting on community businesses just as well. There isn't an organization around that isn't worried about somehow getting Ubered in its own model, and where is that going to take it? And of course the challenges as we unfold that and as we look at what's happening in this technological world is we increasingly have winners and losers and not so many people in the middle. A few do very, very well and dominate their markets at the expense of so many others. So what does that mean for local communities, local economies, local job creation? And where do we play a role in all of that? And the final thing I would say about the current context is we're living in an environment where people, by and large, don't trust business. Many businesses, particularly big businesses, have lost their legitimacy, whether it's around the payment of tax or executive salaries. But of course, at the heart of community business is this word business, and we're trying to show what a business can do and what it means to a community in a very different way. So that's what we hope this is about. My own background, for what it's worth, I've been 26 years in this country. I still sound like this, sorry. Most of that time running global businesses, so I've had the first-hand experience of the challenge of a global economy and where it's taking us. I've been the non-exec of a number of businesses, but in my last 10 years, managed a charity called Business in the Community, very active in Manchester and in the Northwest. Generally, Mike Blackburn, who we'll hear from in a few moments, a great ally of ours and friend of that movement. But now have the pleasure and privilege of chairing Power to Change. The themes, the theory that runs through almost everything that I say and do is really pretty simple. Humanity shares a common fate on a crowded planet, that sustainable communities, sustainable organizations have to be built on the twin principles of social justice, and environmental stewardship. Wonderful examples we saw in the hall before we came in here a little bit earlier. That I believe that business is a force for good, but sometimes we get confused about what value we're trying to create. Is the purpose of business just to create shareholder value, just to squeeze the last pip out of that? Or is it also about creating customer value and colleague value and community value, the things that are at the heart of the community business movement? I heard someone say not long ago that to say profit is the purpose of business is as wrong as to say that breathing is the purpose of life. You need one for the other, but that's not the core purpose. It's about creating that wider value. So that's what we hope comes out of today, the examples we're going to hear from in a moment. The whole idea of community business and the whole idea of power to change is that you have better places through community business. We are an independent charitable trust. We are a grant maker. We are funded by lottery, but we're independent, so that money is in here and we're going to invest that. And as I say, we're a grant maker, but we want to be more than a grant maker. To us, when we think about what is a community business and how is it different from any other business that's out there, and you probably have your own definitions, but the four things we try to look at, that we're locally rooted, responding to local and particular issues and needs, that we are a business, but we're trading for the benefit of the wider community, not just an aspect of that community, that we are accountable as a community business to local people in a very profound and deep and meaningful way. And ultimately, the benefit of that enterprise benefits the community as a whole. Now, those are big asks. Those are broad categories, and we want to not be too purist in how we define all of that, but also stay keeping that focus on what makes us unique and powerful and special. So place, leadership, community value, local returns. Those are the themes that will run through everything that you hear today. I mean, we are firm believers, as you would expect, that a community business develops social capital in a different way, in a more long-lasting way, that community businesses, because of the very nature of who and what they are able to thrive in a way that other organizations and maybe the predecessor occupants of the space simply couldn't for whatever reason. And at the end of the day, it strengthens community resilience, and that's what we're here for. So as you look at, if you're interested, kind of boring, but the business or the Power to Change business plan, we talk about a number of important things that we do. How do we grow the movement? What are the things that we can do to help facilitate that? How do we make sure that we're actually creating and transforming the places in which we operate? How do we bring coalitions and collaborations together? But also, and today is an example of that, how do we make the case? How do we both tell the stories, give the examples, do the very things we're doing today that we hope brings this journey to life? I've said a couple of times that we hope that we are more than a grant maker. Grant making, of course, is an important part of this, some seed money, some ability to get it started. But we also want to think about our own legacy, just like you think about your legacy. And to do that, how important are the other things? Creating the infrastructure and the ecosystems out there, creating the peer-to-peer networks, giving you an opportunity to do the networking and speed dating that you've seen here today, we think is really very important. We know, you probably know this as well, but the community business markets are growing, not just the ones that we fund, but across the board are growing rapidly and are becoming increasingly important parts of that community in which they operate. But we also know, back to my current events and activities out there, that the Brexit vote has gotten an awful lot of community businesses worried because they have received some EU funding. What's going to happen to that? Where is the European funding going to go? Will England continue to follow that? Devolution, as I said, for community business, I think on balance is a great opportunity, but of course carries some risks and uncertainty. But also how we sort of nurture the whole SME relationship here. We know that SMEs are the growth engine for any economy, whether you're talking from London all the way through this great land. So how do we create those collaborations? We hope that you've had an opportunity to both enjoy and visit our gallery of unusual objects out there, and also the Bright Sparks Lounge. And this idea of a Bright Ideas Fund that brings these big ideas to life. Now, Kathy Elliott, who is part of the Power to Change family, will be up here in a moment to talk a little bit more about the partnership we have with the Manchester Evening News and to introduce the Bright Sparks Final, the real reason that we're all here. But let me just say one final thing on communities. We spend an awful lot of time thinking about what success is, don't we? I live in central London. If you go to any sort of dinner party in central London, all you talk about are property prices. Very boring. Well, I, for one, don't think that communities' success is measured in property prices or share prices. I think it's measured in the character of the people that live there. Men and women who work hard, who dream big, who love their families, who serve their neighbors, who get together to make a difference in where they live. And we think that this whole community business movement is at the very heart of that. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for the enthusiasm. Thank you for participating in the various events out there. Good luck to those of you who are presenting in a moment. And Kathy, over to you.
Welcome to you all to Power to Change's first community business show here in Manchester. I'm Kathy Elliott and part of the Power to Change family, and I'm going to be guiding you through this lunchtime session today. Today we've come to Victoria Warehouse and today's event is hosted by Power to Change and the Manchester Evening News. And what we've aimed to do is create a live marketplace between community businesses and commercial businesses to exchange ideas and meet and network. We're pleased to welcome today so many different kinds of businesses from Greater Manchester, and we hope you feel that it has been an inspiring morning, and as well you've had that feeling of a live marketplace. We can also join the conversation on Twitter. I know there are lots of conversations going on here today, which is at hashtag CBShow16, and not only have those conversations today, but to keep them going and to tell us what you think about this, our first community business show. Now, for many of you, you know exactly what a community business is about, but if you don't, it's about using business savvy to achieve local and social good. It's about having a business run by the community for the community that reinvests its profits in the local area. And we've been working with Trinity Mirror Group since the summer to share a campaign through the Manchester Evening News to celebrate the fact that the community business movement in the North West is the biggest in England. This is where the highest concentration are of business, community businesses in the whole of the country. And very much we want to celebrate the social good that's taking place here and now. Power to Change and our partners are investors in community business, and we believe in taking a few risks. We're willing to show faith in people who have great ideas for their local areas. So we particularly want to try and enable community businesses to help themselves and enable their communities. That's the spirit of what it's all about. And as Stephen said, it's better places through community businesses, which you can see on our marketing here today. So in the spirit of showing faith in people who have big ideas, this lunchtime session is about our Bright Sparks final, and you have been reading hopefully a bit about it in the brochure that you've been given on arrival today. We have found our two finalists who will be pitching in a moment through a Manchester Evening News campaign, and they'll be pitching their business ideas to win a package of support that's worth £6,000. Over the next 30 minutes, you'll hear from Four Steps Eat Well Burnage and Sourced in Salford, who to potentially win the prize on offer. And before we get started, we particularly want to thank Cooperatives UK, Slade & Cooper, Locality, and of course Manchester Evening News for their help in making this competition come together. We very much appreciate their efforts over many, many months. I also, before we move into the pitches, would like to introduce our three Bright Sparks judges who are sat here. Erica, I don't know if you can give us a wave, so you know, people know, I'm sure lots of people know Erica, and Karen Horton, and Helen Heap as well. And just to give you a bit of background, if you haven't heard much about them, Erica is a creative economist with 25 years experience in delivering creatively led enterprises, buildings and whole neighbourhoods. Since 2010, Erica has specialised in developing self-sustaining and surplus-generating initiatives that are community-owned. And some of you may well know that Erica is chair of Granby 4 Street's Community Land Trust, who recently were awarded the Turner Prize, which I think threw the art world completely. Congratulations to them. Karen has previously CEO of Ancoats Dispensary Trust, leading the campaign to return the famous Grade 2 listed Manchester Hospital to its former glory and into a community business. And Karen now runs her own consultancy business focusing on regeneration, project management and community engagement. And Helen is a social investor and founder of CEO of Seabourn Hill Limited, a social investment consultancy. She spent more than 2 decades working in the financial services industry and since 2011 has worked with a number of social organisations, investors and Cabinet Office. She's co-authored a number of papers and a book on social finance. So I hope you'll join me in thanking the three of them for giving their time today to joining us. So the format for the Bright Sparks final is a presentation of around 5 minutes or so, and then followed by questions from the judges. And the winner will be announced during lunch before 2 o'clock-ish. So lunch is on its way, but we importantly have our Bright Sparks final first. And so our first, as I said, our first presentation is going to come from 4 Steps Eat Well Burnage. And I'd like to invite Dave and Lynn from the community business up to the stage to make their pitch.
Clicker. No, that's it. That's it. Right, can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Bright Sparks. This is our pitch today. 4 Steps is part of CSOCIC. That's why we changed that's our trading name. We've started a new enterprise learning centre in Burnage. That's all about our staff. That's a bit about the boring bit, but we do have a little bit of a tagline at the bottom. So what do we want to do? Well, we would like to create a nutritional Meals on Wheels service to people in Burnage and the surrounding ward areas of Manchester. Elderly people who need a healthy nutritional meal. There are a lot of people who are suffering ill health, mental health, and have mobility problems. I've got one. He's my 94-year-old father. People suffering deteriorating or life-threatening conditions, but it isn't really all about meals. There's a lot more to it than that. We've already spoke to canvassed opinion with about 90 plus elderly people. We've spoke to sheltered housing associations, we've spoke to the social landlords and the elderly care groups, and because we've been in Burnage for 15 years now, we've actually got a link to all the elderly care groups and all the associations. We've also spoken to the MPs and councillors. So we've done a lot of canvassing and we've looked at, the actual project and how it would work. Well, some interesting stats. Elderly people are vulnerable to malnutrition, with estimates suggesting 1.3 million people aged 65 or over. I don't really need to tell you that people are living longer. I think everybody's aware of that. There are currently 3 million people aged more than 80 plus. Interestingly enough, the Malnutrition Task Force, and they're not based, one of the sort of centres is in Salford, not very far away. The spending on Meals on Wheels has actually fallen by 47%. So there's 46,000 people now no longer receiving Meals on Wheels. But I just said it wasn't all about Meals on Wheels. Diane Jeffrey, who's chair of the Malnutrition Task Force and chair of Age UK, said, Meals on Wheels provides essential social contact for those pensioners who are otherwise entirely alone, an important indirect benefit. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about social isolation for the elderly, a massive problem, and it's going to get worse. I mentioned we've got a fantastic working relationship with the key groups and agencies, care groups. We're actually based at Burnage Community Centre, and the care group is actually in the building. So when we actually canvassed people, we looked at why would they want to buy from us? Well, as I said before, a lot of the people said that the meals were quite boring, they weren't tasty, they were unappetising, they were same old. The picture up there, I hope nobody's in here from that particular company, is actually one of our competitors. And one of the things that the elderly people said to us was, well, they keep giving us carrots and cabbage every day. I'll just put it up there anyway. So we'll make sure it's a fresh products every day. We'll make sure it's nutritious food and it's cooked and delivered straight to the door. And we have a commitment as a CIC and a community enterprise to work with all the care groups to make sure that we will get all the support agencies involved in this So when we deliver to the door, the meal will be delivered, but because we've got access to all these community care groups, we'll make sure that anybody who's new to the system will be referred into these agencies, and they will get all the added support that is needed for the elderly. We aim to use some of our future products on home DIY, gardening, tidy up and home security, 3 issues that are key to elderly people. And that's it. Thanks for listening. Apologies for the picture, but that's something we just thought might make you have a bit of a laugh and a giggle.
There's 2 of the ladies from Burnage Good Neighbours, isn't it?
Yeah, that's 2 of the ladies from the Burnage Care Group that we know quite well.
They're very funny.
There's our website and that, and obviously we're open to questions.
Now we're going to ask a few questions,
Yeah.
so it's part of your pitch.
Is mine's on. I'm answering the questions. Dave did the presentation on it. Because normally we interrupt each other, so we've split it this time. So.
I'll start.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Excellent. My first question really is about how, bearing in mind the comments you said in your application about some of the vulnerability of some of your clients, how will you ensure that local people are involved in running of the organisation?
We're setting up a steering group. We've set up in Burnage Community Centre, and we're actually setting up a steering group anyway for the Enterprise and Learning Centre. And that steering group, we will also start to drive the Meals on Wheels service as it grows. So that'll be part of when we're talking to people about being part of the steering group. Part of it will be that we're building this Meals on Wheels business, and we need you to kind of help us steer it. Eventually we want to pass it over to the community. Eventually it will be theirs. We'll have a model that we can take somewhere else and replicate somewhere else. This is Eat Well Burnage, there might be an Eat Well Withington, there might be an Eat Well in somewhere in Tameside. It's something that the important thing for us is the model and passing it over, because it's that building something sustainable, building something that makes profit, that can be run by the community eventually, and that steering group is the start of it. We have a lot of partners, we have access to a lot of people, we have access to a lot of the care groups. We work very closely with the care groups, we facilitate their meetings and things like that, and we work with them every day. So there's enough people there to support it. We'll support it with our expertise until it's at a stage where we can pass it over, but the steering group is the beginning of that.
I think I was just going to add one point there is we need to interact with the actual people and the relatives and everything else. So what we intend to do is set up focus groups which will interact with the care groups and actually make it so as we're accountable. It's all about accountability for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much for a great presentation. You're feeding vulnerable people, obviously an absolute crucial service, but I think your drivers are going to be voluntary drivers. Are there any risks in that, and do you have a strategy to mitigate those risks?
The initial driver, and in year 2 we'll have 2 that are actually paid self-employed drivers, so they won't be volunteer drivers. So they'll do the bulk of the delivery. Volunteer drivers, there wouldn't be that consistency, and we need that core consistency. But they will come across people who need more time than they're able to give, and so that's when they'll refer people back to the care groups. The care groups already have a bank of volunteer drivers between them. There are 6 care groups in the areas that we're looking at, and they have a bank of volunteer drivers between them that are also befrienders. And so they'll end up delivering a very small number of meals and spending time with people. It won't be, the self-employed driver will deliver meals, and their job will be to identify, they'll be trained to identify the type of things that they need to look for to be able to refer people back to the care groups, because that's what it's for. The business started because the care groups told us that they couldn't reach people who were housebound. They relied on people either coming into the centre or people bringing them, and so relatives or friends bringing them, and they couldn't reach those people who were completely housebound. And this is one way of reaching those people. So initially the driver will be able to do that, the self-employed driver with training, but the volunteer drivers will have a very, very small number of people to go and deliver to eventually.
I'd just add to that. I think one of the main issues for us is, and Lynn and I facilitate a lot of that training, is about communication and listening skills, and the issues around health and safety. Yeah, the care groups have got a massive sort of system in place which actually does all that for their volunteers anyway. And yes, we would put any person who was delivering food through that system. So we made sure that they were actually fully trained. We would also actually be very careful who we interviewed as well, because obviously we're looking for caring people here, and that's part of the whole process.
Yeah, people with the right attitudes and the right sort of approach to the job. It wouldn't just be, you know, a driver that just does driving. They're going to have to do more than that. So we may even train them to be a driver. You know, the self-employed person might be more of a carer, who we train to be a driver, a self-employed driver. So that's how we'll work it.
Okay, I've just got 1.5 questions for you.
Okay.
At the heart of what you're offering is a decent plate of food, and I suppose I'm interested to know who's cooking it, and have you cooked any, and what did people think of what you cooked so far?
Right, we haven't cooked any. One of the things that sort of came up, we were working with a lady called Veronica who's a cook, and so most of the information that we got for this idea came from her on how to cook it, what you need, how you're going to deliver it. She told us all of that, and she's now got a job. But there are other Veronicas out there who are unemployed and could do the. You know,
she has got a job, because we've just got her a job.
We just got her a job. She came to our sessions and got a job. But there are other Veronicas out there, and so you know we'll get advice from them, and hopefully it will be an unemployed local person who will take the job of being our cook.
I think we've done just to add to that, I think I've certainly done a massive amount of research with all our competitors and the types of food that they deliver, the softer types of food for people who need that, the types of food, you know, for different ethnicities. So we've looked at the whole range of what types of food we would have to deliver and have to produce, yeah. Yes, we wouldn't produce them all from day one, but I think we've got to accommodate all that into the project.
Okay.
Thank you very much to you both. Let's give them another round of applause.
Can I just give you that, because I know we didn't answer all the questions, but we did answer them in there.
They came with a handout afterwards as well, very well prepared. So our second and final pitch for our Bright Sparks final is from Sourced in Salford. I'm now going to invite to the stage Stuart to do his presentation.
Hello, my name is Stuart Fraser and I'm here to deliver the presentation for Sourced in Salford. I'm a fully qualified chef with considerable experience of community work in East Salford. Sourced in Salford are ultimately looking to create a full-time community cafe in our local area of Broughton. Operating as a community interest company, we will be selling excellent value food in one of the country's most underprivileged and disadvantaged areas. We understand how important it is for us to develop in a way which best suits our community, so we intend to be as flexible as possible. The process needs to be organic. I will outline our route forward, which is a 3-stage plan. The first stage of our community enterprise is our weekly supper club, Dinner in Broughton. It has already been in operation for 6 weeks, and we have funding to ensure that it will run for a full year. We serve excellent quality, healthy food for the unbeatable price of £2 for a 2-course meal. This is all made possible by the use of potential food waste from FareShare, all of which is perfectly good food still within its use-by date. As the food is from FareShare, we can never be certain of what we will get until it arrives. Because of this, the menus are devised midweek and then released on social media. To help prepare this food, we are building an extensive team of volunteers who cook under my guidance and supervision. We also train volunteers to operate in front of house positions and to serve our diners. We've already had a tremendous response, with every session so far receiving more than 20 diners. Over 50 individuals have so far attended, and we have established a core group of enthusiastic and supportive Friday night regulars. This encouraging start puts us well ahead of the figures in our cash flow forecast. We have produced a range of publicity material which has been distributed throughout our community to help spread the word about what we are offering. The second stage is what we are calling a roaming supper club. We intend to expand our supper club to 5 or more new East Salford locations. By then, we will have refined and distilled our supper club concept. We will have a clear and efficient model that we can replicate. These venues will potentially be schools and colleges, community centres and church halls, and possibly commercial cafes that are usually closed by mid-afternoon. In addition to increasing the reach of our organisation, the Roaming Supper Club will help promote and raise awareness of our intention to create a community cafe. This will help us to grow our community business. The third stage of our venture will be to create a community cafe in Broughton. It will actually be more like a culinary community centre. We will still use food from FareShare to provide excellent value for money meals in a relaxed and comfortable environment. In addition to the daytime cafe, the supper clubs will be continued. Inviting guest cooks from within our community to present regular national cuisine nights will give local folk the opportunity to experience a wide range of new foods and improve awareness of other cultures within their neighbourhood. We intend to provide accessible and user-friendly training leading to recognised food hygiene qualifications. We will also offer catering services for external parties and outdoor events. In summary, our 3-stage plan: the Friday night supper club, then a roaming supper club, and finally we will establish a culinary community centre. We are fully aware that our plan is far from straightforward. This is largely why we feel we will be able to make excellent use of the business support services being offered to the winners of this competition. That concludes the presentation for Sawston Salford. Thank you very much for listening. I will do my best to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Stuart. I'm going to hand over to the judges now.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Great presentation. Your FareShare model, if I understand that correctly, you are dependent on what comes from FareShare in terms of you mentioned. So you've already mentioned that you will devise your menus once you know what's coming in. Once you get to the stage of particularly the cafe, where you're providing menus of food for people who are wanting to buy something in particular, is there a risk that you may not get the raw materials that you need from FareShare in order to provide the kind of meals that people would like to buy? And if so, how would you get around that?
Yes, there is a risk. We get around it in lots of ways. For a start, we won't have a regular menu at the cafe. It will be a daily menu. So there will be 8 or 10 dishes a day. Some might last more than one day. We will be using not only FareShare, we will have additional suppliers to bridge the gaps and to fill the holes that arise. The other part of making the FareShare work is it's about clever cooking. It's using the good weeks to help, but when we don't have the good weeks, in the lean weeks, as I call them. So it is about freezing, it's about pickling, it's about making chutneys, it's about making jams. It's about making things up and freezing them, and it's about using vac packing so we can get fresh veg to last for a good 2 weeks once it's vac packed. That's how we'll make the FareShare work.
Great presentation, thank you. I was just wondering if you considered the pay-as-you-feel concept in terms of the pricing. I know that some people, £2 is amazing, and I'm kind of staggered that you can do it. But I'm aware that some people might be able to pay more, be able to do that, and some people £2 is still too much and unaffordable.
We have thought about the pay-as-you-feel model. We don't think it works for our community very well. We think having a very clear price so people know how much it is and there is no obligations, everybody in the room has paid the same for their meal. And it's about giving people a stigma-free place to come. We have had people already at the 6 supper clubs we've already run offering donations, which we do accept, but we don't advertise that we're looking for them. We're going to run a suspended meals programme, so taking the idea from the suspended coffees that started in the States. So we'll use the donations to fund suspended meals we'll give out in vouchers. We're going to be working with other local groups to give out the vouchers to people who may need it. So that's why we're not using the pay-as-you-feel model.
And I'm a little bit interested, so you're up and running with your supper clubs. I'm obviously interested in the food because it's a similar question to the last one, but what have you discovered about what you're cooking? What are people saying about the food and the meals and the opportunity to come and meet each other?
People seem to be really enjoying it. As I said in the presentation, we've had over 20 people at every session so far. We've had no problems with the fare share so far. We've budgeted £10 a week for additional food, and we've come under that budget every week so far. We've cooked various different things every week. Everyone's been very happy. And ham, egg and chips went down best, with wedges done in the oven, and then we did roast tomato and a little bit of salad with it to make it slightly more healthy. And that was entirely with the fair share. We didn't have to buy anything additional.
I'll be down for ham, egg and chips.
Any more questions? No? Great. Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you. So thank you to Dave and Lynn from Four Steps Eat Well Burnage. Thank you to Stuart from Sourced in Salford, and particularly for putting yourselves out there, not only in front of the judges, but in front of a community business community. And I hope those of you that are running community businesses may have picked up some tips there on how you might be grilled on certain information that people, whether they're funders or mentors, might be looking for. So I'd like to ask you again just to give them both growth organisations a round of applause. So in creating today's live marketplace, we wanted to especially bring in commercial businesses from Greater Manchester and the wider region. We know that most of the private sector now realises that corporate social responsibility, or CSR, is not only about reputation management and staff retention, it's also about giving something back and doing the right thing. And in bringing together different types of businesses today, we were really delighted that Mike Blackburn, who is Regional Director for BT, but especially for us as Chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership for Greater Manchester, agreed to come and speak today to help us connect all those different aspects of the business world. So I'm now going to invite Mike to the stage to say a few words as our guest speaker today.
Thank you for that introduction, and it's absolutely for me a delight to be here to see that the first community business show here in Greater Manchester is happening here today. I'm going to spend the next few minutes kind of connecting, I hope, and bringing to life for you what we do here in Manchester and why what you do is really important. And for me, it's genuine. I've known Stephen for 10, 15 years, Stephen, and I think he would tell you that it means something for me. So genuinely, well, I'm going to give you some thoughts and tell you what I've been doing as well. But I'm going to connect into this thing called the Local Enterprise Partnership first, because you've all probably never heard of what that is, which is good, because that means you've got a completely clean sheet. So the Local Enterprise Partnership was set about 6-7 years ago to connect the private sector, so that's everybody who is not public sector, with the public sector, to devise a strategy for economic growth for each area of England. And we chose Greater Manchester because it's a cohesive, bounded area. And it's developing a single strategy for that area, for economic growth, but the underlying tagline that we've used is something called prosperity for all. Because we believe for decades now there have been far too many people in Greater Manchester and other parts of the country who are just left out of that strategy and plan for growth. So the aim was, how do you bring the private and the public sector together to create a strategy for wealth creation for every single person in that Greater Manchester area? And Greater Manchester, by the way, is about 2.7 million people. Its economic size is about £60 billion per year, and there are over 90,000 businesses. So on a UK scale, whatever we do here in Manchester, it matters on a UK scale. So our board that we have is made up of private and public sectors, but dominated by the private sector. And we created a vision about 5-6 years ago called Stronger Together, and that vision sets out a new model for sustainable economic growth. And that key word for us was about sustainability. Far too frequently we've seen over the last 10, 15, 20 years projects hitting the streets that are not sustainable in the delivery of the services that they want to deliver to make change that is required. But that sustainable economic growth for us is based around a better connected, a more talented and a greener city region. And it ensures that all our residents can contribute to and benefit from a city region that continues to grow economically. And it's bearing fruit. So between 2014 and 2015, the economy of Greater Manchester grew by 1.5% above average, which is equivalent to about another £1.1 billion to our economy. So we've built on this foundation by having a series of devolution agreements with government. Again, many people will have heard of those, but not quite sure what they mean. So let me give you one example of what that devolution arrangements would look like, which I think, having seen some of the slides that Dave Lynn and Stuart put up there, community business can absolutely play a part in. And that is around the health and social care. So in Greater Manchester, around about £6.5 billion are spent from the health and social care budgets. And as of April 1st this year, the agreement is that how that money gets spent in Manchester is now going to be determined by Manchester. Not by Whitehall, not by national averages, but by what we want. And what we're looking to do is to turn what we will call a national ill health service. So you wait to become ill first, and then you go and see somebody, a medic or a hospital or a consultant somewhere. But nobody ever deals with the problem of how do you stop people requiring those services? How do you become an ill health prevention service? How do you connect people who've got mental health issues before they become so bad that they need medical intervention, that you can help them in their community, in their own home, elsewhere in society, by connecting organisations together and by doing different things in different ways. And this is about connecting streets together, connecting houses together, connecting local places together in a variety of ways that is not going to be determined by some central mandarins in London, but going to be determined by us in Greater Manchester. And it's the only place in the country that has got those powers to be able to do that. But please, one plea is don't judge results on day one. If you're trying to turn around a £6 billion organisation with 37 different delivery organisations just in the health and social care marketplace, that takes time. But absolutely do come up with your voice. Make your voice heard through all the consultations, through anybody you think can connect into that. Because without your voice, we will develop plans that you would look at and say, they're wrong. So one of the reasons I got involved years ago was I was kind of sitting on the side and I'm thinking, why are we sitting on the side criticising and carping? Let's get involved and be action-oriented and make that change ourselves. And of course, the latest thing with the strategy that we've got is obviously before the EU referendum back in June this year. It feels like June last year. And therefore, we're now revitalising our strategy to look at what does that exit from the EU look like and how will it impact on both Greater Manchester residents and Greater Manchester businesses. So how can community businesses contribute to that approach? So one of the things I've just heard in the two presentations is that, no surprise, community businesses face all the same challenges that traditional businesses face, whether that's on planning, strategy, implementation, finance, HR, connections, networks, all the same things. but they've got added challenges as well. You've got to satisfy social missions and transform the lives of communities. So what you do is impactful on a daily basis on the ground. It's not some highfalutin strategy somewhere, it's active on the ground. But I think your entrepreneurial spirit, and we've just seen some of that, offers some clear advantages in driving innovation and building social capital for the benefit of our communities and for the people who live in those communities. You're often much more responsive than large organisations and nimble in delivering against your objectives, especially when you involve service users in how you look at your management, your capacity and your own structures and arrangement. So I think using this ability to innovate and diversify in response to what the community is telling you they need means you can offer wider access to services and provide holistic solutions that will address a range of issues. So you've got huge focuses in exactly the same way as traditional businesses will have, but you are benefiting from your focus on the deprived communities and giving local people a chance to develop skills and develop their earning potential. So with all this in mind, there's a clear opportunity, I think, for you to play a really meaningful part in GM's and Greater Manchester's strategy, its operations and its reform priorities, crucial bit in the reform activities that go on. That can range from supporting our drive to revitalise our town centres, in helping us to reform the delivery of our public services, so tell us where it's going wrong and how we could change, building interdependence between organisations and between streets, between places, between activities, and giving our residents a better chance for a brighter future. I've already mentioned the health and social care area. That is a crucial area where I think you could play a hugely strong part to give us that brighter future. And a good friend of mine, Ed Cox, is involved in a very good programme, I think, the Levenshulme Inspire programme, a development which is a great example of social innovation, I think, in Greater Manchester, around some of our key neighbourhoods. The partnership has been transforming an old church building into a modern, glass-fronted, modern set of innovative mix of business support skills, affordable housing, development community activities, a whole range of things. And for those who don't know Ed, he is just a whirlwind of enthusiasm. So please, if you ever see Ed, congratulate him on what he's doing, help and support him in what he's doing. He will absolutely help you in whatever you're doing as well. That £3 million redevelopment that he's now driving through with his local community has received funding from a number of partners, including the City Council here in Manchester. But we know that groundbreaking enterprises like that Levenshulme Inspire programme need more than money to flourish. So Beyond Finance, again, we just heard that from the two presentations, from Beyond Finance, community businesses as well as mainstream businesses require a range of support services to contribute to their success areas such as planning, governance and marketing as well as financial management. And I spent 3 hours yesterday with 35 companies in Manchester trying to inspire them to give up looking at CSR through their own lenses of how they look at their balance sheet and how they look at their own corporate identities and start thinking about how could they use their skills of all their people to support social organisation, social enterprise organisation in the area of marketing, management, general support, finance, just giving up a few hours a week, a few hours a year from all organisations. And I was delighted a place like Carillion, only based a couple of miles up the road here, have given every single member of staff 6 days a year to support local community organisations. They're not being told which ones to support, they're allowed to choose which ones they want to support. For me, 6 days, think of that, 2,000 people here in Manchester times 6, how many days they could support. And they haven't got enough projects and programmes to be able to go and give those people enough to do. Why can't we, as organisations, connect together with people like Carillion so they can help your organisations develop that plan, implement, connect to organisations, find a new chef when you're looking for a new chef. Actually, you two might have already found each other over here. But you can connect in this world in a different way. So what I'm saying is I'm encouraging private sector organisations to take that approach using their skills and expertise to help and support and enhance the capacity of community businesses, particularly as they play their part in in corporate social responsibility. And I'd rather drop that title of corporate social responsibility and go back to what Stephen always talked about over the last few years about just being a responsible business in your community. So in short, by working together in this way, I think we can take our shared social and economic ambitions for Greater Manchester and realise this great city's full potential. Let me give you one other example of that. which kind of passes over most of us. A year ago, we had a visit to this great city of ours from the President of China. And since that time, London is slightly different. London is a capital city. But outside London, Manchester gets more name-checking than any other city in the world in China for the past 12 months. Actually, more than London as well. We've now got to grasp that kind of world-leading global thinking and place-shaping for Greater Manchester and say, we are really proud to live and work here. We're going to make this a substantially better place to do business, to live, to grow up, to work, to play. And I think the added advantage of having a strategy for Greater Manchester, connecting the private and the public sector together to help and support what you do so you can help and support this great city be economically better, be socially better, and give a brighter future for all our residents is a great thing to do. Thank you for letting me be here today, and I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And again, a round of applause for Mike in coming to join us today. Thank you. So that's the end of our lunchtime presentation. We'll be announcing the winner of the Bright Sparks final during lunch in about half an hour or so. The judges are going to disappear and deliberate somewhere else. And we'll be sharing the news with you later. Lunch will be served out in the gallery area, and it will include some pies, I understand, from Home Baked, a northwest-based community business that run as a cooperative bakery. And I hope you enjoy this time together. And again, thank you to our judges, thanks to Stuart, to Dave, to Lynn, to Mike, to Stephen, and to you all for joining us today. And I hope you enjoy your lunch, and I'll see you in about half an hour. Thank you. Hello to you all. Hi there. I hope you enjoyed that gorgeous lunch. And I think there's still more food out there if you want to go back out there later. So we are now ready to announce the winner of the Bright Sparks final. And I'm going to invite Helen Heap as one of the judges to come and share some comments from the judges, as well as importantly share who the winner is. Helen.
Thanks very much, Kathy. I'll just give a few comments on the two presentations in the order that they were given, just so you don't read anything into that. So, 4 Steps, Eat Well, Burnage. We loved the fact that you were very, very strongly suggesting it's not just about the food. The social isolation part of the model, clearly an important part of what you're doing, and we thought that was really, really powerful and very strong. We love the fact that you're working within existing structures and that you have people around you who can give you lots of different support in different ways, which was also a very strong part of your model. We love the fact that you found Veronica, that you found her to do some work with you, and then you've actually helped her move on as well. So that, again, is shown that you've got a really great process in place that can move people on as and when you come across them. And we think if you can crack that problem that you're trying to solve, how do you get healthy food at an affordable price for elderly, vulnerable people in the communities? That is an eminently scalable model that has applications in lots and lots of communities. So we thought that was very strong as well. Sourced in Salford, again, a fantastic presentation. We like, again, the fact that you're using existing people that you're working with, existing premises, and that is a key part of your model. Your 3-stage process was very strong. So you're starting off at a fairly small level, and then you're gradually ratcheting up the model so that you can expand and reach out into further people, a wider community. Really, really great. So that is a very, very scalable model. We like the idea of your culinary community. I can't say my words, I'm sorry. Culinary community cafe, bringing people together, food being a core part of that, but again, it is social isolation, communities working together. And we love the idea of your guest chefs as well. We think that's great, a great way of going out to the community with lots of different ideas and different sorts of food. So 2 really, really great presentations, good models. As always, these things are really, really tough decision to make. But in the end, we have made a decision, and we have decided that the winner is Sourced in Salford.
So congratulations to Stuart and Sourced in Salford. I hope you found it a very informative way of learning about how community businesses work and how you can learn to improve them as well. Thank you to our judges for deliberating over lunch. Congratulations to Stuart. Thanks to David and Lynn for your time here today as well. And again, thanks to Cooperatives UK and Slade & Cooper for supporting us as well. So it's our first Bright Sparks final, and thank you for taking part and witnessing it. So that brings this part of our presentation and event to an end. We will be running our next community business show in Liverpool on the 23rd of November. So if you have interests or roots in Liverpool, you're very welcome to come over to that one and book via the Power to Change website. We also, as you know, this is our first community business show, and so if you have any suggestions or ideas or feedback for us, please let us know. There will be an evaluation form coming out. You can also share your thoughts on Twitter. We'd ask you to be kind at #CBShow16. And some of you have kindly agreed to be filmed to share with us why you have decided to come today. So if you're willing to share your thoughts in about a minute about why you came today, we are gathering people over there afterwards. The event is going on now till 2:30 out there, so there'll be more lunch and refreshments. You can go and have a look at the exhibition on the history of community businesses, the gallery of unusual objects, and please carry on having your discussions and conversations. We hope it's been a productive and inspiring day for you, and thank you for joining us. Thank you.